Alright, so I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with this, so just bear with me. Recently in my life, like, I guess I'm just gonna go back to saying, like, the last few months to now, I have been very, like, particular about who I let in my circle, even really in the vicinity of me, what I tell people, and essentially, like, what advice I'm really willing to give people, because I used to have this friend and I used to give them advice all the time, right? Give them advice. They would tell me about, their other friends or whatever. Give them advice for them. Because I'm a really quiet person. I keep to myself. A beautiful thing I heard today was I have a poker face, not an RBF. And I'm going to start saying that, like, I'm not going to put that, like, negative connotation of my resting face with an RBF, because at the end of the day, it is not in me to be cruel to people, despite what other people think. I'm just a very honest person, and I just believe people deserve the truth. Like, I'm not really into the fake stuff, to the point where I have discernment that now, like, nobody really wants to know the truth. So when they ask me a question, my first response really is, are you sure you want the answer to that? Do you really want me to tell you? Like, I usually ask people, do you really want me to tell you? And they typically sit there for a second and they say, no, actually I don't. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it cuts the conversation short, because at the end of the day, like, they really just wanted validation of their own feelings, and they already knew the truth. It's a butterfly. So yeah, but like, I told myself, like, I'm not gonna be always giving people all the advice and whatnot. Like, it was like, I thought it was like me being like caring, empathetic, and in a sense it is, but it was the people pleaser side of me, of always wanting to really take care of people, and it exhausted me. And I had nothing left for myself. And when I stopped showing up for people the way they expected me to, no matter what time of day it was, what situation, even if it was a situation that I personally wasn't familiar with, it became a problem. And I lost a friendship because of that. Essentially, I had no idea, and I told the truth. I didn't know. I'm not going to fake the advice and fake it through it. I want to give people, all of me. I mean, obviously boundaries and whatever, but like, show up for people the best way I can. And I got a little quiet. Now, a lot of people that I'm around right now, whether that's like my work environment, who I work out with, socially, tend to not recognize that silence does not mean submission. Silence does not mean you gave up. Sometimes silence is simply protecting your peace. And I actually started telling people that. It was simply me saying, like, you choose to see me how you want to. I'm telling you who I am. Like, for example, the RBF thing. If I am just looking out where I work, like, I'm just looking out 20 feet ahead of me, right? And I'm thinking about class, a poem I just read, a video, the Bible, because I've been reading it, listening to music. Like, to them on the outside, it's, oh, she's having a bad day, I'm gonna leave her be. And to me, it's, well, I'm minding my business, so I don't even know. A few hours later goes by, and they're like, hey, oh, are you okay? And I'm like, why wouldn't I be? And they're like, well, you just seemed a little off. And I'm like, how many times have I told you? You just come up to me, ask me how I'm doing. I'm gonna tell you straight up if I'm having a bad day or not, if it really is even that necessary. But like, I find it quite interesting, and this is literally what I tell them. I said, I find it quite interesting how many times we've had this conversation, but, and I tell you, I was simply just listening to music. And when I say listening to music, I mean something like, I've got a poker face and I'm listening to Afro beats. Like, you see what I'm saying? Or I'm watching I'm listening to a YouTube video, and it's like, how could I be upset listening to this? I just have a poker face. And I'm gonna start saying, I'm not gonna say RBF anymore, but I'm like, I just have a poker face. This is just my resting face. But they choose to see an ugly side of me. And these are people that I've hugged when they cry. I've given them advice. You know, they tell me they admire me for the way I carry myself and the boundaries I have. And it's the same thing I actually ended up having to tell them to their face once is, you're always going to choose to see me the way you want to. No matter how many times I tell you who I am. I mean, I've had people literally laugh in my face when I told them I'm actually a nice person. And like, I've got like people have told me before that they think I should be a nurse. And I actually went to college at first as a nursing major, but decided that it wasn't for me. But like, in retrospect, like, you know, a few months ago or maybe about a year ago, you know, saying that to them, and then recently they're telling me all these things that they admire about me and asking me questions because they're trying to like articulate how they want to carry themselves in life. And they're saying these things, but then they're telling me who I am, and I'm like, okay, hold up, sweetie, I just have boundaries, and you don't know me. And in the nicest way, but the most blunt way possible, all I say to them is, and I don't want you to know me. Because at the end of the day, why would I want to open myself up to somebody who only sees an ugly version of me and somebody I'm not? And like, I'll be on FaceTime with a good friend of mine, and they might see me smiling, jumping up, you know, showing excitement in this bubbly side of me, seeing me in a dress because they've only ever seen me in certain clothing, and they're shocked because you had one version of me in your head and you thought that's all I was, or you made it up entirely based on what you have going on. Like, I used to say, I used to actually tell people they were projecting and not to put that on me, but people don't take that well. So I've just decided I won't say anything at all. And typically that they feel that silence because they get uncomfortable. I'm not saying it's easy. It's really not. It hurts a little bit. And the only thing you can really do is like wish them the best and remind yourself who you are. Because at the end of the day, they're gonna say whatever they want to say anyway. And there's this thing that females have where they're going to, people you're acquainted with, they're going to be like, they have beef with you. And I've come to realize that them saying that is them simply just trying to close the gap between y'all because they literally don't have any other way to try to get closer to you. Really just fill in that silence so they're comfortable just saying anything. And as I usually say, yeah, that beef's one-sided because I have no beef with you. But you can have that beef over there by yourself. I have nothing to do with it. And that's usually what I say, because it's like, I have to make it a little clear. Because as I said the other day to somebody, I said, I'm going to say this very specifically because I would really hate to hear these words be turned around, flipped upside down, and displayed on a plate in a way that I've never even said it like that. So I'm like, I don't know. Be yourself. People are going to hate you, love you, think the worst of you, think the best of you. Honestly, just based on who they are. Because at the end of the day, people change. We all hear about, you know, our grandparents or our aunts and uncles, whomever, who've been with each other for a long time, or at least dealt with each other for a long time. And they've talked about how they've had to, you know, evolve with them, go through the changes. Because at the end of the day, life happens. And you really can't, I mean, it's everybody's, hey, what's up? I'm not gonna lie, I'm hoping I can like put the videos together. My younger sister, she came in and, you know, had to be I just had to talk to her. But essentially all I was saying was like, just be yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the you deal with yourself the most, And I'm not gonna lie, there was a time where I used to like water down my opinions and really just how I carried myself for the sake of others, and it was exhausting. um I've been surrounded by a lot of people who really just want a lot of superficial relationships from acquaintance and higher, and want to, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a this generation thing, but it's like, how they talk about our generation making everything about our mental health and our sexuality. People don't know how to be friends, and all people want to do is flirt. Like, and I'm not gonna say I wasn't a flirt, but like at some point, like, come on, because it was everybody, literally everybody in the room. You just put us all together, and if you didn't entertain the flirting, you got to see some ugly sides of those people later. So just be yourself, because I ain't gonna lie, I noticed when I stopped tolerating things and certain behaviors, I actually had people telling me to my face that like I there were certain circles that I needed to be around, and that the ones I was around, those just weren't it. Mind you, I'm not saying these things. The people are. And I'm like, okay, well, what do they mean by that? But like, looking back at it now, the conversations I want to have, they don't even know how to hold. And I'm sure like we could talk about it a little bit, but I want to talk about like autonomy that men have, not just women have, in novels or just in life. I was talking to my classmates about it at one point. Like, why do we always talk about feminism? And why is it like when we talk about masculinity, it's always like a toxic view? There's always a toxic viewpoint on it, And maybe and I literally said it. I said, not to be fair, it's been shown over the years why there's a negative viewpoint on it. But it was just like, like, can we just be nicer to each other and be more empathetic and like loving? Maybe that's like the naive side of me that just wants to see the good in everybody. But I hate to say it, but women have gotten really ugly towards each other. And I don't know if it's really like, I grew up being surrounded by guys, typically. Like, I was the, just another dude in the group, essentially. I was one of the guys. And I remember, like, I got pulled to the side one day by my folks, and they were like, you're a girl. And I was like, I know. They're like, so you can't do that. Because, I was playing, like, tackle football with the boys, tackling people 3 times my size, wondering why we was getting hurt. So, probably only in the like recent years, because a lot of the females I've been around, they've only ever wanted to try to have like a romantic relationship. But I've been like seeing what it's like to be surrounded by like these girls and these girl groups, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been fucking with it. Excuse my language, but I have not. Like, it's like they gotta, why do you it's not necessary to be in a group where everything about you and another person is the same, because then you're wondering why your friend took your man. I'm sorry, it's the truth. Now, you don't gotta worry about that when it comes to me, just because of my preferences, but then you wonder why your friend took your man. And just a lot of women are just like copying each other, and then wondering why that like they don't know what they want to do with their lives. And that's what I've been watching a lot of recently. Just paying attention to what, just using my discernment, and letting go of that people pleasing tendency, because I had it, and I can be pretty confident. Sometimes it comes out a little cocky, and I can admit that. And I'm working on it. But, you know, even I have my days where I might be feeling a little insecure. And I just got to remind myself I'm loved. The people closest to me, they know what that means. But, yeah, I don't. In my closest circle and in, like, just my life, there's a whole lot of peace. And I am going to keep that. And I won't let anybody really come in between it anymore. Like, I won't risk it. The last decent friendship I had, where I learned a lot, I'm not gonna lie, before I was friends with that person, I remember telling myself, I don't want to be around somebody like that. Somehow ended up being friends with that person and getting bit in the ass. Excuse my language, but it's the truth. I learned a lot, had a lot of fun, and wish the best for that person to this day, truly. But it's like knowing something is bad for you and then not expecting the betrayal. But, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like giving people chances, but ultimately all it was I didn't particularly care for somebody, and now that they didn't particularly care for somebody, okay, let me be friends with them. And it's not even like a me, because they had stuff happen between them. But it's not even like with me. There's sometimes you just don't want people in your lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm a pretty quiet person, but if you're my people, I'm not quiet. So I don't know, just be yourself. Put all your energy into yourself first, because it's only going to catch up to you. I'm going to be honest with you. It's only going to catch up to you. And, do it scared. I've had a lot of people in my life tell me, you can do whatever you put your mind to, Maya. And there's a lot of pressure in that, being told how smart you are, or really just telling you, like, if you put your all into it, you can do it. But then at the end of the day, like, sometimes you want a coach, or a mentor, and you realize there's literally nobody around you to be that person. And so it can be daunting, but, like, you gotta really just suck it up and be willing to fall down. And my biggest fear is falling, which is ironic. But just, be okay with falling down, getting bruised up, a little scratched up, hurting your own feelings, and failing a few times before you make it. Because at the end of the day, you did it with that man, you did it with that girl, you did it with those so-called friends. If you're gonna give all of them that chance, why not give it to yourself? That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of forgot where I was, because I'm hoping I can clip the videos together before my sister came. But essentially, that's all I'm saying. Like, if you can put your all into everybody around you, put your all into yourself. There are things that you stopped doing because it was time to adult, and to be fair, like, none of us were really prepared for it. And so, like, it was wanting, like, doing the things you love kind of turned into a hindrance, because it felt like, it was in the way of doing what you needed to do. You didn't see the beauty in doing the things that you loved, when you always felt like there was something you needed to get done, always moving, always being on the go. Stop. Like, literally stop moving, breathe, and realize that, like, that same 30 minutes you were gonna take to beat yourself up is the same 30 minutes you could take to put that face mask on, go work out. Because at the end of the day, your workout doesn't have to be 2 hours long. Your workout doesn't even have to be an hour long. I literally do weightlifting for 30 minutes and cardio for another 30. On my worst day, I literally only do 20 to 30 minutes of cardio. The Stairmaster is my best friend when it comes to that, unless like somehow I messed up my leg. But like really, like this the same 30 minutes you were gonna spend doom scrolling, you could paint, you could watch a TV show and not feel so bad about the fact that you're not doing anything. But at the end of the day, you still need rest. With growth comes rest. So just be nicer to yourself, give yourself grace. It's not the easiest, but silence the outside, because at the end of the day, typically when you go home, you're to yourself in all the pressure you're putting on yourself. So just silence the outside for a second and like give yourself the grace to breathe and have rest, because you deserve it. That's what this video is essentially about today. I'm hoping I can clip both of them together. And I hope you all have a lovely day, night, wherever you are.